The eviction notice trembled in Rachel's hands, the crisp white paper a stark contrast to the worn wooden desk in her cramped studio apartment. She read the words again, though they hadn't changed in the 3 times she'd already reviewed them. Final notice. Payment of tuition fees, 8,500,000 Korean wons, required by November 15th. Failure to comply will result in termination of student visa and immediate deportation proceedings. November 15th. 6 days away. Rachel set the letter down carefully, as if sudden movement might make it more real, and walked to the narrow window overlooking the gray streets of Sinchon. Seoul sparkled in the early evening, neon signs flickering to life across the university district, students streaming from cafes and libraries, their laughter rising up to her 4th-floor window. 18 months ago she'd been one of them, carefree, hopeful, her future as bright as the city lights. Now she was drowning. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother in Lagos. "How is school, my dear? Your father's shop is struggling with the new exchange rate. Praying for better days. Love you." Rachel closed her eyes. Her mother didn't know. Couldn't know. The family had scraped together everything for her first year. Sold jewelry, borrowed from relatives, pooled resources from her father's barely profitable electronics shop. Then the scholarship had come through for year 2. And everyone had breathed easier. Rachel was going to make it. She would graduate with an international business degree, get a good job, send money home, change their lives. Except the scholarship foundation had collapsed 3 months ago. Embezzlement scandal, the university had explained in a terse email. All grants terminated immediately. She'd been given a semester to find alternative funding. She'd found nothing. 3 part-time jobs. Convenience store clerk, restaurant server, English tutor, brought in barely enough for rent and food. Tuition might as well have been $1 million. She'd applied for loans, but banks wanted Korean cosigners. She'd begged the International Student Office for extensions, payment plans, anything. The administrator had been sympathetic but firm. University policy. No exceptions. 6 days. Rachel pulled on her black work shirt and smoothed her hair into a neat bun. Her evening shift at Maison d'Elegance started in 40 minutes. The upscale French restaurant in Gangnam paid better than her other jobs. Korean 115,000 per hour instead of 10,000 Korean wons, but it still wasn't enough. Even if she worked every possible hour, she'd need 3 more months to save tuition. She had 6 days. The subway ride to Gangnam passed in a blur of fluorescent lights and tired faces. Rachel practiced her customer service smile in the dark window reflection. "Smile, be gracious, maybe someone will tip generously tonight." Tips were rare in Korea, but the restaurant catered to international businessmen who sometimes followed Western customs. She emerged at Gangnam Station into a different world. Here, Seoul showed its wealthy face. Luxury boutiques, imported cars, women in designer handbags that cost more than Rachel's yearly rent. She hurried past them, invisible in her cheap jacket, and slipped into the restaurant's back entrance. "Rachel. Table assignments." Manager Kim thrust a diagram at her. "You have the private rooms tonight. VIP clients. Look sharp." Private rooms meant big spenders usually. Maybe tonight would be different. Maybe someone would leave 100,000 Korean wons, or 200,000 Korean wons, and she could. She stopped the thought. Even 200,000 Korean wons was nothing against 8,500,000 Korean wons. The evening shift started smoothly. Rachel moved through the motions, greeting guests, explaining menu items in careful English, pouring wine with practiced elegance. Her mind ran calculations on repeat. 6 days. 8,500,000 Korean wons. No cosigner. No family money. No options. At 8:30 p.m., Manager Kim approached her station. "Private room 3. New reservation. Very important client. Your best service." Rachel nodded and checked her reflection in the polished silver napkin holder. Smile in place, she knocked softly on the door to private room 3 and entered. The man sitting alone at the table was perhaps 65, maybe older, but age sat well on him. Silver hair swept back from a distinguished face, dark eyes that assessed her with unsettling intensity. His suit was impeccably tailored, European cut, probably Italian. A Patek Philippe watch gleamed at his wrist. Everything about him spoke of wealth, power, control. "Good evening, sir. Welcome to Maison d'Elegance." Rachel's voice was steady, professional. "May I bring you something to drink?" "Cognac. Louis XIII." He spoke in Korean, his voice deep and measured. Rachel blinked. Louis XIII cognac cost 80,000 Korean wons per glass. "Of course, sir. Right away." When she returned with a crystal snifter, he was reviewing papers in a leather portfolio. He didn't look up as she set the glass down. "You're not Korean," he said, still focused on his documents. "No, sir. I'm Nigerian. International student at Yonsei University." Now he looked up. His gaze traveled over her face, not lecherously but analytically, like someone appraising an object. "What are you studying?" "International business, sir. 3rd year. Speak Korean well for a 3rd-year student." "I study hard, sir. And work here at night." It wasn't a question. 3 jobs, I'd guess. Maybe 4. Rachel's smile faltered. Yes, sir. May I take your dinner order?" "Sit down." "Sir, I'm working." "Sit." The command was soft but absolute. Rachel glanced at the door, then at him. Something in his eyes told her refusal wasn't an option. She sat on the edge of the chair across from him, spine straight, hands folded. "What's your name?" "Rachel, sir." "Rachel." He tested the name, swirling his cognac. "You have a problem." "Money, I'd guess." "Tuition." Her heart hammered. "I don't understand." "You have the look. I've seen it before. Desperation hiding behind professionalism." He took a slow sip. "How much do you need?" "Sir, I really should." "How much?" The words came out before she could stop them. 8.5 million won. By November 15th. He didn't even blink at the figure. "That's very achievable." Hope flared painfully in her chest. Do you know of scholarships? Loan programs? Nothing so complicated." He set down his glass. "I help students in difficult situations. I have the resources. You have something I want." "I don't have anything." "Companionship." The word hung in the air between them. "I'm a businessman, Rachel. 65 years old, unmarried, very successful, very busy. I don't have time for the traditional dating process. I prefer direct arrangements." Understanding crashed over her like cold water. "You want 1 evening per week. Wednesday nights. You come to my home, share dinner, provide company. In exchange, your tuition is paid immediately, and you receive 5 million Korean wons monthly for living expenses." She stood up abruptly. "I'm not a prostitute." He said it matter-of-factly. "No, you're a student in crisis. I'm offering a solution. Many women would consider this arrangement generous." He pulled a business card from his jacket. "My name is Han Jae-sung. I own several businesses in Seoul. Call this number tomorrow if you're interested. If not, I understand." He stood, leaving 100,000 Korean wons in cash on the table for his untouched cognac. "Think carefully, Rachel. 6 days isn't very long." Then he was gone, and she was alone in the private room, staring at the business card in her shaking hand. The rest of her shift passed in a fog. Rachel served customers mechanically, her mind replaying the conversation. Companionship. 1 evening per week. 5 million Korean wons monthly. It was obscene. It was impossible. It was solution. She finished at midnight and took the subway home through empty cars, the business card burning in her pocket. In her apartment, she pulled up her laptop and searched. Han Jae-sung, CEO of Hanseong Investments, real estate developer, owner of 3 luxury hotels. Photos showed him at charity galas, ribbon-cutting ceremonies, shaking hands with politicians. Nothing scandalous. nothing indicating he was anything but a successful businessman. One evening per week, Rachel opened her banking app. Balance: 340,000 Korean wons. Rent due in 3 days. 450,000 Korean wons. She'd be short again, would have to grovel to her landlord for another extension. Her phone rang. Her mother's picture filled the screen, taken 2 years ago before the worry lines had deepened around her eyes. Rachel let it ring through to voicemail, couldn't bear to hear the forced optimism in her mother's voice. The voicemail notification appeared. She played it. "Rachel, my dear, I hope you're sleeping well. Don't study too hard, okay? Your father wanted me to tell you." A pause, her mother's voice tightening. "Your sister Chioma needs surgery. Her appendix. The doctor says it's not emergency yet, but soon. We're managing, don't worry. Just, if you have anything extra this month. I know you're busy. We love you." Rachel set the phone down with trembling hands. Chioma was 14. Smart, bright, wanted to be a doctor. Needed surgery. She looked at Han Jae-sung's business card, then at the eviction notice on her desk, then at her phone. 6 days. At 2 a.m. she finally slept, the card still clutched in her hand. Wednesday morning she called the number. A woman answered, professional and crisp. "Mr. Han's office. This is... My name is Rachel. He told me to call." One moment. The hold music was classical, expensive sounding. Then Han's voice. "Rachel, I'm pleased you called. I want to meet. To discuss. Details. Of course. Tonight 8 p.m. I'll send a car to your address. How do you know my... I'll see you tonight." The line went dead. The day dragged endlessly. Rachel skipped her classes, couldn't focus on her tutoring session, moved through her convenience store shift like a ghost. Questions screamed through her mind. What am I doing? Is this who I am? What would my mother say? What would I tell myself a year ago? But under the questions ran a darker current. What choice do I have? At 7:45 p.m., a black Mercedes pulled up outside her building. The driver, stern-faced and silent, opened the back door. Rachel got in, her heart pounding so hard she thought he might hear it. They drove to Cheongdam-dong, Seoul's most exclusive neighborhood. The car entered an underground garage beneath a gleaming high-rise. The elevator required a keycard to access the penthouse level. The doors opened directly into Han Jae-sung's apartment. It was massive, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Han River, modern furniture that probably cost more than her parents' house, art on the walls that looked museum quality. Han stood by the window, still in his suit, watching the city lights. "Welcome," he said without turning. "Please sit." Rachel perched on the edge of a leather sofa that probably cost 5 million Korean wons itself. Han turned, carrying 2 glasses of wine. He handed her one. "First, let's be clear about expectations. Wednesday evenings, 8 p.m. to midnight. You'll have dinner with me, provide conversation and share my bed. Nothing violent, nothing you're truly uncomfortable with, but I expect genuine effort." Her hands tightened on the wine glass. "In exchange," he continued, "your tuition will be paid tomorrow morning. You'll receive 5 million Korean wons on the 1st of each month, directly deposited. Complete discretion is required. You tell no one about this arrangement. If you break that rule, the agreement ends immediately." "For how long?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Until you graduate. Roughly 18 months. 18 months of this. 18 months of Wednesday nights." She thought of her degree, her family, Chioma's surgery, her future. "If I agree," she said slowly, "I need the money for my tuition right now. Proof you can pay." Han smiled slightly. "Of course." He retrieved his phone, made a call in rapid Korean. "What's your student ID number?" He told him. He relayed it, listened, then showed her his phone screen. A banking app, transferring 8,500,000 Korean wons to Yonsei University. Payment applied to her account. "It's done," he said. "You're enrolled for next semester." Rachel stared at the screen. The debt that had suffocated her for months, erased in seconds. Her visa was safe. She could stay in Korea. She could finish her degree. All it cost was this. "Do we have an agreement?" Hun asked. She drank the entire glass of wine in 3 swallows. "Yes." "Good." He took her glass, set it aside. "Then let's begin." What happened next occurred at a distance, as if Rachel was watching someone else's body move through the motions. Han was surprisingly gentle, almost clinical in his approach. He undressed her methodically, led her to his bedroom, touched her with the practiced ease of someone who'd done this many times before. She focused on the ceiling, on the soft jazz playing from hidden speakers, on anything but the reality of what was happening. When it was over, he kissed her forehead, the gesture somehow more disturbing than the sex, and told her she could shower. In his marble bathroom, Rachel stood underwater hot enough to burn, scrubbing her skin until it hurt. When she emerged, there was an envelope on the bed. Inside, 500,000 Korean wons in cash. For tonight, a note read in neat handwriting. "Your monthly payment begins December 1st. The driver took her home in silence. In her apartment, Rachel checked her university portal. The tuition balance showed 0. She was officially enrolled for next semester. She had sold herself and bought her future. At 3 a.m. she finally cried, but only a little. Tears were a luxury she couldn't afford. Her phone buzzed. A text from Han Jae-sung. "Next Wednesday 8 p.m. Don't be late." Rachel turned off her phone and stared at the ceiling until dawn broke over Seoul, painting her room in shades of gray that felt like her soul. 6 days ago she'd been desperate. Now she was something else entirely. The first month passed in a blur of carefully constructed lies. "You look different," her roommate Blessing said one morning, studying Rachel over instant coffee in their shared kitchen. "Like you're sleeping better. Did you find money somewhere?" Rachel forced a smile, the gesture coming easier now after 4 Wednesday nights of practice. "My uncle sent something. Not much, but enough to breathe." Blessing hugged her, and Rachel felt the embrace like knives. Her friend smelled like cocoa butter and honesty, things that felt foreign now. "Thank God. I was so worried about you." "I'm fine now," Rachel said, extracting herself. "I have to get to class." She did look different. The evidence stared back from her bathroom mirror each morning. Better skincare products, hair professionally treated, subtle makeup that cost more than she used to spend on food. Han had suggested improvements, always couched as gifts. "Spa day here. A shopping trip there. You represent me now," he'd said. "Presentation matters." The money helped. God, the money helped. She'd sent 1 million Korean wons home for Chioma's surgery. Her mother had cried on video call, praising God and asking what miracle had occurred. Rachel had spun a story about a small scholarship, emergency funds from the university. More lies, stacking like blocks until she could barely remember the foundation of truth beneath them. December brought cold winds and Han's increasing presence in her life. "I found you a better apartment," he announced on their 5th Wednesday, after dinner at an exclusive restaurant where the waiter knew him by name. "Seolung. Much nicer than Sinchon. Closer to me. I have a lease. Already handled. You move this weekend." And she had. The new apartment was 3 times the size of her studio, in a building with a doorman and marble lobby. 1 bedroom, modern kitchen, a view of tree-lined streets rather than cramped alleys. It was beautiful. It was a cage with better bars. Han provided furniture, dishes, even stocked her refrigerator. "I take care of what's mine," he'd said, and the possessive pronoun had sent ice through her veins. By week 6, Wednesday nights expanded to Wednesday and Friday. "My schedule changed," Han explained, though it wasn't really an explanation. "I'll need you twice weekly now." "That wasn't our agreement." "The agreement is flexible." His voice remained pleasant, but something harder lurked beneath. "You're being compensated generously. Surely you can manage 8 hours per week." What could she say? The money kept flowing. 5 million Korean wons monthly like clockwork. She was caught in golden handcuffs, and they were tightening. By week 8 he wanted 3 nights. "I have exams," Rachel protested, standing in his penthouse living room, trying to keep her voice steady. "I need to study. Study during the day." Han poured himself scotch, didn't offer her any. His moods had become more unpredictable lately. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Non-negotiable. This is too much. He crossed the room in 2 strides, gripped her chin gently but firmly, forced her to meet his eyes. "Rachel, you seem to have forgotten something. Everything you have, your apartment, your tuition, your family's comfort, comes from me. I can take it away just as easily." She jerked away from his touch. "You said until graduation. I said complete discretion and genuine effort. Are you putting in genuine effort?" His smile was cold. "Or should I review our arrangement?" The threat hung between them. Rachel thought of Chioma, now recovered from surgery. Of her father's shop, which had bought new inventory with money she'd sent. Of her mother's voice, lighter now, hopeful for the first time in years. 3 nights, she whispered. "Good girl." He kissed her forehead, that same disturbing gesture of false affection. "I knew you'd understand." January brought a different kind of trap. "You'll accompany me to a business dinner," Han said casually, adjusting his tie in his bedroom mirror while Rachel dressed after a Wednesday session. "Saturday night. Formal dress. I'll have something sent over." "I don't think. It's not optional. Important associates of mine. I need a companion." Saturday arrived with a 3 million Korean wons designer gown and a car at 7 p.m. Rachel sat in the Mercedes, feeling like she was heading to her own execution. The restaurant was even more exclusive than Maison d'Elegance, the kind of place that didn't have prices on the menu because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. Han introduced her as "my special friend" to 5 men and their wives or girlfriends. All Korean, all wealthy, all watching her with knowing eyes that made her skin crawl. The wives, draped in jewelry, assessed her with barely concealed contempt. The men looked at her like a commodity. "So young," one man said in Korean, probably assuming she wouldn't understand. "Where do you find them, Jae-sung?" "I have particular resources," Han replied smoothly, his hand possessive on Rachel's lower back. Another man laughed. "I need your resources. My last one couldn't handle the arrangement." The conversation continued around her. Business deals, political connections, casual mentions of girls and arrangements that made Rachel realize she wasn't unique. She was part of a system, a network of powerful men and desperate women. Her stomach turned, but she kept smiling, playing the role Han expected. In the car afterward, she was silent. "You did well tonight," Han said. "My associates were impressed. They talked about me like I was furniture." "You're being dramatic." He scrolled through his phone. "This is how business works. Relationships, connections, mutual benefits. I'm not a benefit. I'm a person." He looked at her then, really looked, and something flickered in his eyes, almost like pity. "Rachel, you stopped being just a person when you accepted my first payment. Now you're an investment. The sooner you accept that, the easier this becomes." She got out at her apartment without another word, went inside, and stood in the shower until the water ran cold. By February, Rachel noticed she was being followed. It started subtly, the same black car idling near her university. The same man in a dark suit at the coffee shop she frequented. When she changed routes, he adapted. When she mentioned it to Han, he'd been dismissive. "Security. For your protection." "I don't need protection." "You do now. You're associated with me. That brings certain exposures." The security never left after that. She had a permanent shadow, reporting her movements, her friends, her schedule. Her phone had a new app she hadn't downloaded. Location tracking installed remotely. When she tried to delete it, it reinstalled itself. Han monitored her social media. commented on posts she made. Who is this boy in the background of your study group photo? He'd asked once, voice casual but eyes sharp. A classmate. From statistics. I don't like you spending time with male classmates outside of class. That's insane. That's the arrangement. His voice went cold, the voice that meant argument was futile. If you want male friends, perhaps you don't need my support anymore. The walls were closing in. Blessing noticed first. You're never around anymore. You missed the African Students Association meeting. You didn't come to my birthday dinner. Her friend's eyes were hurt, suspicious. What's going on with you? Just busy. School work. You quit 2 of your jobs. You moved to Gangnam. You wear clothes I've seen in Vogue. Blessing stepped closer, lowered her voice. Rachel, if you're in trouble, if someone is. I'm fine. The lie came automatically now, smooth as glass. I got a better job, that's all. Private tutoring for a wealthy family. You're lying to me. I have to go. Study group. She left before Blessing could press further, before the cracks in her facade could show. The friendship didn't survive much longer. By March, Blessing had stopped calling. Rachel's other friends followed suit. She was alone, exactly as Han preferred. Isolation brought its own kind of clarity. Late March, returning to Han's penthouse for a Wednesday session, Rachel noticed things she'd been too overwhelmed to register before. The security cameras hidden in corners. The reinforced doors. The fact that his study was always locked, requiring a fingerprint scanner for access. During dinner, she observed his phone calls. He always stepped away, but snippets drifted back. Collection by Friday or there will be consequences. The shipment from Busan needs different paperwork. Tell Kong to handle the Incheon situation quietly. Han's business associates, from that January dinner, appeared regularly. Men with hard eyes and expensive suits, speaking in low tones, carrying briefcases that looked heavy with more than documents. One night, returning from the bathroom, Rachel passed Han's study. The door was cracked open, unusual. Through the gap, she glimpsed a wall of security monitors showing various locations. Warehouses, office buildings, what looked like a nightclub. Cash counting machines sat on a side table, LED displays showing numbers in the millions. Rachel. He jumped. Han stood behind her, face unreadable. I got lost, she said quickly. Looking for the guest bathroom. That's the master bath. Guest is down the hall. He guided her away with a firm hand on her shoulder. You should be more careful about where you wander. Some rooms are private for a reason. That night he was rougher than usual. Punishing her, she realized, without ever saying so explicitly. Afterward, lying in his bed while he slept, Rachel stared at the ceiling and acknowledged what she'd been avoiding for months. Han Jae-sung was not just a wealthy businessman. He was something much more dangerous. And she was trapped in his world with no clear way out. The breaking point came on a rainy evening in late March. Rachel had arrived for her Wednesday session, performed the expected role through dinner and wine, and was heading to the bedroom when Han's phone rang. He glanced at the screen, frowned. I need to take this. Wait here. He disappeared into his study. Rachel stood in the hallway, and for the first time in weeks, she was alone and unsupervised. The door wasn't fully closed. She knew she shouldn't. Every instinct screamed caution. But 3 months of suffocation, of being watched and controlled and owned, pushed her forward. She moved silently to the door, peered through the crack. Han stood with his back to her, speaking rapidly in Korean. I don't care about his family. He borrowed 50 million Korean wons and hasn't paid in 4 months. Make an example. Yes, public enough that others see. And the girl from the club. She needs to understand discretion or she disappears like the others. Handle it tonight. The girl from the club. She disappears like the others. Rachel's blood turned to ice. Han turned suddenly and she scrambled back, heart hammering. He emerged a moment later, face composed. Everything all right? He asked pleasantly. Yes. Her voice was steady though her hands shook. Just waiting. He smiled, cupped her face, kissed her. She tasted her own fear on his lips. That night, she went through the motions on autopilot, her mind racing. Loan sharking. Debt. Women disappearing. This wasn't just wealth. This was organized crime. And she was sleeping with a man who made people disappear. When the driver dropped her home at midnight, Rachel climbed into bed fully clothed and stared at her ceiling until dawn. She thought of the 5 million Korean wons that would appear in her account in 3 days. Blood money, she understood now. She thought of her family, eating food and wearing clothes purchased with that money. She thought of the women who came before her. The ones who disappeared. Would she disappear if she tried to leave? The next morning, exhausted and desperate, Rachel went to a coffee shop in Hongdae. Far from Gangnam, far from her usual haunts, away from the security she knew followed her. She needed to think, to breathe, to remember who she'd been before Han Jae-sung. The bathroom was small and dirty, nothing like the luxury she'd become accustomed to. Staring at her reflection, designer skincare, professional makeup, terrified eyes, Rachel broke. She sobbed into her hands, harsh gasping cries that came from somewhere deep and broken. She'd been so stupid, so desperate. She'd sold herself and now she couldn't buy herself back. The bathroom door opened. An older woman, maybe 50, Korean, with kind eyes and sensible clothes, stepped in. She glanced at Rachel, then moved to wash her hands. "I'm sorry," Rachel gasped, trying to compose herself. "I'll just—" "You're in trouble," the woman said quietly in English. Not a question. Rachel shook her head, but more tears came. The woman dried her hands, pulled a business card from her purse, and set it on the sink. "Call this number. He can help." She met Rachel's eyes in the mirror. "Whatever you're in, there's always a way out. You just have to be brave enough to take it." Then she was gone. Rachel picked up the card with shaking fingers. Park Ji-won Private Investigations 010-8947-3321. She should throw it away. If Han found this, if his security reported this. But she folded it carefully and tucked it into her bra, against her heart, the only place his cameras couldn't see. For the first time in 3 months, she felt something besides fear. Oh. Chapter 3. Unlikely Alliance. Rachel stared at the business card for 3 days before finding the courage to use it. She kept it hidden in a tampon box, one of the few places she was certain Han's people wouldn't search. Each morning, she'd check to make sure it was still there, that she hadn't imagined the woman in the bathroom, that the possibility of escape was real. The wedding invitation arrived on the 4th day. It wasn't really an invitation. Han presented it over dinner at his penthouse on Friday night. A simple white card with elegant Korean calligraphy and English translation beneath. Han Jae-sung and Rachel Okoye request the honor of your presence at their wedding April 28th. Rachel's fork clattered against her plate. "What is this?" "Our wedding announcement." Han sipped his wine, watching her reaction with clinical interest. "I'm 65, Rachel. I don't want a mistress anymore. I want a wife." "You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious. We've been together 4 months. You're beautiful, intelligent, young enough to give me children. It's logical." "Logical." Her voice rose despite her better judgment. "I'm 23. This isn't what we agreed. Agreements evolve." He set down his glass with careful precision. "I've grown fond of you. More than I expected. Marriage provides certain benefits. Your visa becomes permanent, your family gains valuable connections, you'll never want for anything. I don't want to marry you." The temperature in the room dropped. Han's pleasant expression didn't change, but something shifted behind his eyes. Something cold and absolute. "That's unfortunate," he said softly. "Because the alternative is quite unpleasant. You see, I've documented everything, Rachel. Every payment, every night, every text message. Evidence that could destroy your reputation, get you deported, put your family in very difficult circumstances." Her throat closed. You said this was until graduation. I said many things. But you're bright enough to understand how this works. He leaned forward. 55. You belong to me now. Your visa status depends on me. Your family's prosperity depends on me. And if you're thinking of running. His smile was gentle, terrifying. Well, other girls have tried. It never ends well. The women who disappeared. The wedding is in 5 weeks, Han continued, as if discussing dinner plans. I've hired a planner. You'll attend all appointments. You'll smile. You'll play the role of grateful bride. And then you'll be my wife, legally and completely. He stood, straightened his jacket. I have a business meeting. Stay the night. My driver will take you home in the morning. Then he was gone, and Rachel was alone in the penthouse that felt more like a tomb. She didn't sleep. She sat by the floor-to-ceiling windows watching Seoul's lights blur through tears, trying to calculate escape routes that didn't exist. Run to the embassy. Han had connections. She'd seen politicians at his dinners. Go to the police. And say what? She'd taken his money willingly. She'd signed nothing, had no contract, no proof of coercion. She was trapped. At dawn, while Han still slept, Rachel made her decision. The university library was crowded on Monday afternoon. Students cramming for midterms, the hum of focused study filling the air. Rachel found a computer station in the back corner, far from security cameras, and pulled up a private browser. Her hands trembled as she dialed the number from the business card, using a calling app that masked her phone number. 3 rings. Maybe it was fake, maybe. Park Ji-won. The voice was male, middle-aged, cautious. I. Rachel's throat tightened. A woman gave me this number. She said you could help. Silence. Then. Who are you? I can't say. Not on the phone. Are you in danger? Yes. Think so. I need to meet you. More silence. Gwangjang Market. Tomorrow 1 p.m. Food section, the Bindiatique stalls. Come alone. If you're being followed, don't approach. Just walk past. How will I know you? I'll know you. If this is real, I'll find you. The line went dead. Tuesday dawned cold and drizzly. Rachel told Han's security she was meeting classmates for a study group, a lie that was becoming second nature. She took the subway instead of a car, changed lines twice, doubled back to check for followers. At Gwangjang Market, the lunch crowd was thick. Office workers, tourists, elderly locals haggling over vegetables. The smell of frying pancakes and fermented kimchi filled the humid air. Rachel wandered through the food section, trying to look casual while her heart hammered. A hand touched her elbow. Keep walking. The voice was the same from the phone, low, controlled. Don't look at me yet. They moved through the crowd together, 2 strangers in the chaos. He guided her to a corner stall selling macchiali, ordered 2 bowls and bindiatique for them both, led her to a small table shielded by a vinyl awning. Only then did Rachel see him clearly. Park Ji-won looked like he'd seen hard years. Maybe 45, with graying hair and a face mapped with fine lines. His suit was neat but worn. His eyes sharp and tired in equal measure. He studied her with the same intensity she'd seen in Han, but without the predatory edge. You're younger than I expected, he said quietly. You're not what I expected either. What were you expecting? I don't know. Someone more. She gestured helplessly. Intimidating. A ghost of a smile. I'm a private investigator now. Used to be police. Lost that job 10 years ago when I asked the wrong questions about the wrong people. He pushed the bindiatique toward her. Eat. You look like you haven't slept in days. Rachel picked at the food, her stomach too knotted to actually eat. The woman who gave me your card. My sister. She works at that coffee shop sometimes. Helps me identify potential witnesses. She has good instincts about people in trouble. He sipped his macchiali. Oh, tell me. The story came out in fragments. Meeting Han, the arrangement, the gradual takeover of her life, the wedding announcement, the overheard conversation about disappearing women. Park listened without interruption, his expression growing darker. When she finished, he set down his cup carefully. Do you know who Han Jae-sung really is? A businessman. Hotels, real estate. A front. All of it. Park pulled a worn folder from his messenger bag, opened it to reveal photos, newspaper clippings, handwritten notes. Han Jae-sung runs one of Seoul's most sophisticated criminal networks. Loan sharking, money laundering, connections to human trafficking. He's been operating for 30 years, and he's very, very good at staying clean. Rachel stared at the photos. Han at various locations, meeting with men whose faces had been circled in red. Lists of names with dates beside them. Women's faces, some marked with X's. What do the X's mean? She whispered, though she already knew. Missing. Disappeared. Dead, probably. Park's jaw tightened. I've been tracking Han for a decade. He destroyed my partner. Park Min-jun. We were partners in the police. Min-jun got too close, started investigating Han's trafficking connections. One night, he was supposed to meet an informant. Instead, his body was found in the Han River. Ruled a suicide. But it wasn't. It wasn't. I tried to prove it, pushed too hard, got labeled obsessed. Lost my badge, my pension, almost my family. He closed the folder. So I went private. Been collecting evidence ever since. But Han's good. Everything's laundered, hidden, protected. Witnesses disappear or recant. Evidence vanishes. So what can I do? If he's that powerful. You're inside his house, Rachel. You have access to his life, his office, his private spaces. Park leaned forward, intense. You could be the witness I've needed for 10 years. You could help me bring him down. Fear and fury warred in her chest. If he finds out, he'll kill you. That's the risk. Park's honesty was brutal, refreshing after months of Han's manipulation. I won't lie to you. This is dangerous. But you're already in danger. He's trapping you in marriage, isolating you, controlling every aspect of your life. How long before you become one of these? He tapped the photos of missing women. Rachel thought of the wedding invitation. Of Han's cold smile when he'd said other girls have tried. Of spending the rest of her life as his possession, his property, until he decided she wasn't useful anymore. What would I have to do, she asked. Gather evidence. Photos of documents, recordings of conversations, copies of files if you can access his computer. Anything that proves his criminal activities. Park pulled out a small box. I have equipment. Tiny cameras, recording devices, ways to copy data discreetly. I'll train you. And then I take everything to a prosecutor I trust. We build a case strong enough that not even Han's corruption can stop it. He goes to prison, you go free. You make it sound simple. It's not simple. It's nearly impossible. But it's your only way out. Park's eyes held hers. Unless you want to marry him in 5 weeks and spend the rest of your life as Han Jae-sung's prisoner. Rachel looked at the photos of missing women again. Young faces, full of life, now just X's in a folder. She thought of her family, of the dreams that had brought her to Korea, of the person she'd been before desperation had made her vulnerable. If I do this, she said slowly, you have to promise me something. If it goes wrong, if he finds out, my family in Nigeria can't know. They can't be hurt because of this. Promise. I have contacts, ways to protect them if necessary. And if I die, Park didn't flinch. Then I keep fighting until I bring him down anyway. Your death won't be meaningless. It wasn't comforting, but it was honest. Rachel extended her hand across the sticky table. Okay. I'll do it. Park shook it, his grip firm. Then we start training tomorrow. Same time, different location. From now on, you're not just Han's prisoner. You're my operative. And we're going to destroy him. For the first time in months, Rachel felt something other than helpless. She felt dangerous. The training started the next day in a small office in Mapogu Park's headquarters, cluttered with case files and surveillance equipment. He taught her basics. How to use a pen camera, how to hide a recording device in jewelry, how to photograph documents quickly without leaving traces. Always assume you're being watched, Park instructed, showing her a necklace with a built-in camera. Never take unnecessary risks. If you're not sure, don't do it. Dead witnesses can't testify. Encouraging, Rachel muttered, practicing activating the camera with subtle movements. I'm serious. Han is intelligent and paranoid. One mistake and you're done. Park handed her a smartphone. Older model, basic. Burner phone. Only call me from this, and never from your apartment or his penthouse. Public places, crowded areas, where surveillance is difficult. He already tracks my regular phone. Let him. Use it normally, keep patterns consistent. This is for emergencies only. Over the next week, they met 4 more times, always in different locations. Rachel learned to spot surveillance, to create cover stories, to think 3 steps ahead. Park drilled her on what to look for. Financial documents, meeting records, anything connecting Han to illegal activities. The wedding is in 4 weeks, Park said during their 5th meeting. It needs to happen. What? You marry him. Get that legal access to his life, his accounts, his properties. Then you have freedom to move through his world without raising suspicion. Park's expression was grim. I know it's asking a lot. It's asking everything. Yes, but it's also tactical. Once you're his wife, you're beyond suspicion. He'll relax his guard. That's when we strike. Rachel wanted to argue, to refuse, to run. But she thought of the X'd faces in Park's folder and knew he was right. Okay, she whispered. I'll marry him. And while you're his wife, you'll spy on him, gather everything we need, and help me put him away for the rest of his life. Rachel looked at the equipment spread across Park's desk. Cameras, recording devices, flash drives, tools for espionage and survival. When do I start? Park handed her the necklace camera. Tonight. Go to his dinner, smile, play your role. And start looking for cracks in his armor. What if there aren't any? There are always cracks, Rachel. We just have to find them before he finds you. That night, at Han's penthouse, Rachel wore the necklace camera for the first time. Her hands shook as she clasped it, the tiny lens hidden in a decorative pendant. But by the time Han's driver picked her up, her face was calm, her smile perfect. She was learning to play a different role now. Not just compliant mistress, but double agent. Over dinner, Han discussed wedding details. The venue, his hotel's ballroom, the guest list, 50 of his associates, the honeymoon, 2 weeks in Jeju Island, isolated, controlled. You'll be a beautiful bride, he said, reaching across the table to touch her hand. Rachel smiled, let him hold her hand, and the whole time the camera recorded everything. After dinner, while Han took a phone call, she wandered near his study. The door was locked, but through it she heard fragments. Shipment arrives Friday. Busan warehouse. Telcong no mistakes. She filed it away. Busan warehouse Friday, and returned to the living room before Han finished his call. That night, performing the physical intimacy he expected, Rachel thought of Park's words. You're not just his prisoner. You're my operative. She could survive this. She could use this. She could destroy him. When Han's driver dropped her home at midnight, Rachel went straight to her bathroom, ran the shower for noise, and called Park from the burner phone. I got my first recording, she said quietly. And I heard something about a Busan warehouse. Good. Park's voice was proud, determined. That's a start. Keep going. Document everything. Park. She hesitated. Thank you. For giving me a way to fight back. Don't thank me yet. We have a long way to go. After the call, Rachel hid the phone behind the bathroom mirror, where Han's cameras couldn't see. Then she looked at her reflection, the face of a woman who'd been broken and was slowly rebuilding herself into something harder, sharper. A weapon disguised as a bride. The wedding was in 4 weeks. The real war would begin after that. The wedding preparations consumed the next 3 weeks like a fever dream. Han's wedding planner, a severe woman named Mrs. Cho, appeared at Rachel's apartment every other day with fabric swatches, venue photos, catering menus. Everything was already decided. Rachel just had to nod and smile and pretend she had any say in her own wedding. The dress fitting is Tuesday, Mrs. Cho announced, flipping through her tablet. Hair and makeup trial Wednesday. Photography session Thursday. That's a lot in 1 week, Rachel said carefully. Mr. Han wants perfection. We have 3 weeks left. Mrs. Cho's eyes were cold, knowing. She'd planned weddings for Han's associates before. She understood exactly what kind of marriage this was. The final guest list is at 70. All Mr. Han's business partners and their companions. Companions. The word sat bitter on Rachel's tongue. But she smiled, nodded, played the grateful bride while the necklace camera Park had given her recorded everything. Mrs. Cho's tablet contained guest names. Park would want those. Potential witnesses, potential leverage. Between wedding obligations, Rachel continued her double life. She attended Han's dinners 3 nights a week now, each time wearing some piece of Park's surveillance equipment. The pen camera captured documents when Han left his briefcase open. The modified phone case photographed text messages when he set his phone down. The earrings recorded conversations. Slowly, piece by piece, evidence accumulated. "You're getting good at this," Park said during one of their meetings at a busy Starbucks in Hongdae. He scrolled through the photos she'd taken. Financial ledgers, meeting notes, text messages discussing shipments and collections. "This is more than I've gotten in 5 years. It's not enough though, is it?" Rachel sipped her coffee, eyes scanning for familiar faces. Han's security sometimes followed her to Hongdae, though she'd learned to lose them in the crowds. "Not yet. I need something definitive, proof of a specific crime with dates and details. Right now we have suggestive evidence, but a good lawyer could explain it away." Park closed the laptop. "What about his office? The locked study in his penthouse? I haven't been able to get in. Fingerprint scanner. Can you get his fingerprint?" Rachel thought of the various ways she touched Han, the intimacy that made her skin crawl. "Maybe. But I'd only have one chance. If the scanner logs failed attempts, he'd know someone tried to breach it." Park nodded. "Save that for when we're desperate. For now, keep documenting what you can access. The wedding is in 2 weeks." "I know." Park's expression was grim. "After you're married, you'll have more freedom to move through his spaces. He'll be less suspicious of his wife than his mistress." "But Rachel," he leaned forward, voice low. "Once you're married, leaving becomes harder. Legally, financially, every way. Are you sure?" "I don't have a choice." Her voice was flat. "If I run now, he'll hunt me. You said it yourself. Other girls have tried. There's always a choice." "No, there isn't." She met his eyes. "We finish this. We get the evidence, we bring him down, or I die trying. Those are my options." Park was quiet for a long moment. "You're braver than you know." "I'm not brave. I'm just out of other options." The dress fitting was surreal. Rachel stood on a pedestal in an exclusive boutique in Cheongdam-dong, wearing a 15 million Korean won's gown. White silk, crystal beading, a train that puddled on the floor like spilled milk. Mrs. Cho circled her, checking seams, while 2 assistants pinned and tucked. "Beautiful," Mrs. Cho said with clinical approval. "Mr. Han will be very pleased." Rachel stared at herself in the 3-way mirror. The girl looking back was a stranger. Elegant, expensive, empty. A doll dressed up for display. "I need a moment," she said abruptly. "Bathroom." In the boutique's marble bathroom, Rachel locked herself in a stall and pulled out the burner phone. Her hands shook as she texted Park. "I don't know if I can do this." His response came quickly. "You can. You're already doing it. 2 weeks. Then we move. What if it's not enough time? Then we make it enough. Breathe. You're stronger than he knows." Rachel closed her eyes, forcing air into her lungs. She thought of the missing women in Park's photos. Of Chioma, safe in Lagos because of money stained with blood. Of the person she used to be, before desperation had carved her into someone harder. She could survive 2 more weeks. She had to. The wedding rehearsal was intimate and tense. Just Rachel, Han, Mrs. Cho, and the officiant. They walked through the ceremony at Han's hotel ballroom, a cavernous space with crystal chandeliers and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul. "You'll enter from here," Mrs. Cho directed, positioning Rachel at the back of the ballroom. "Walk slowly. Mr. Han will be waiting at the altar." Rachel practiced the walk 3 times, each step feeling like a march toward execution. Han watched from the altar with satisfied eyes, already seeing her as his possession. After rehearsal, he pulled her aside. "You've been distracted lately. Distant." Her heart stuttered, but her face remained calm, months of practice paying off. "Just nervous about the wedding. It's a big change. Change is good." He cupped her face, his touch possessive. "Soon you'll be mine completely. Legally, permanently. No more arrangements, no more uncertainty. You'll be Mrs. Han." "I can hardly wait," she lied. He kissed her, and she let him, playing the role while mentally cataloging everything for Park's case. Han's cologne, expensive, distinctive. The way his hands always went to her waist first, controlling. The underlying threat in every gesture of affection. "I have something for you," Han said, releasing her. He produced a small velvet box. "Your wedding gift." Inside was a diamond necklace, easily 30 million Korean wons, heavy with stones that glittered like captured stars. "Beautiful." "Scene. It's too much. Nothing is too much for my wife." He lifted it from the box, clasped it around her neck. The weight settled against her collarbones like chains. "Wear this at the wedding. I want everyone to see that you belong to me. You belong to me." The words echoed in her head long after he'd dropped her home. 1 week before the wedding, Rachel had her first real breakthrough. She'd arrived at Han's penthouse for their Wednesday session, wearing the necklace camera as usual. Han was in his study, door open for once, him visible through the gap on the phone. "Stay in the living room," he'd instructed before disappearing inside. "I'll be 15 minutes. But Rachel had learned to recognize opportunities. She moved quietly down the hall, angled herself where the necklace camera could see through the partially open door. Han stood with his back to her, focused on his call. His desk visible beyond him. Papers spread across the desk. Documents with official seals, photographs, what looked like shipping manifests. And on his computer screen, visible from her angle, a spreadsheet with names, dates, and amounts in the hundreds of millions of won. The camera captured it all. "Yes, the prosecutor is handled," Han was saying. "Park Ji-won is still sniffing around, but he's just one man. No official backing, no credibility." Rachel's blood froze. Park. Han knew about Park. If he becomes a real problem, Kong will handle it like he handled Park's partner. Minjun. Han was admitting to Minjun's murder. Tape. Rachel forced herself to stay calm, to keep the camera steady. This was it, the confession Park needed. "The Friday shipment is worth 2 billion Korean wons. Make sure customs is paid off properly. More evidence. Smuggling, bribery, specific amounts." Then Han turned slightly, and Rachel saw what was in his hand. A photograph of her, standing outside a coffee shop with Park, taken weeks ago. Her heart stopped. "Yes, I'm aware my fiancé has been meeting someone," Han said coldly. "I'm handling it. She thinks she's clever. She's not." Rachel backed away silently, pulse hammering. He knew. He'd known all along. This was a trap, and she'd walked right into it. She made it to the living room, sat on the couch with shaking hands, tried to look casual when Han emerged 5 minutes later. "Everything all right?" he asked pleasantly. "Fine. Just checking my phone." He studied her for a long moment, and she knew that he was deciding something. whether to confront her now or wait or, "Let's have dinner," he said finally. "I'm in the mood to celebrate. 1 week until I make you mine forever." The meal was excruciating. Rachel pushed food around her plate, trying to think, to plan. If Han knew about Park, they were both in danger. She needed to warn him, but how? Han's security was watching. One wrong move and, "You're not eating," Han observed. "Still nervous about the wedding?" "A little." "Don't be. Everything is arranged. Everyone is in place." His smile was predatory. "All the loose ends are being tied up." "Loose ends? Like her? Like Park?" That night, Han was rougher than usual, almost punishing. Rachel endured it, mind racing through scenarios. After, while he slept, she lay awake planning. She had to get to Park. Had to warn him. But she was being watched every moment. The wedding. 6 days away. 70 guests, including Han's enemies disguised as friends. Chaos, crowds, opportunities. If she could signal Park somehow, get him a message. At 3 a.m., Han's phone buzzed on the nightstand. He woke, checked it, frowned. "I need to go out. Business emergency." He dressed quickly. "Stay here tonight. Driver will take you home in the morning." "What's wrong?" "Nothing that concerns you." He kissed her forehead, that familiar, terrible gesture. "Go back to sleep."